It's time for Ted and Gareth on the Tech Addicts Podcast. This week, issues with AI, mobile speeds, broadband speeds, wearable games consoles, facial recognition, nuclear whistles, and sexy shenanigans such as cleavage and pole dancing. Hello and welcome to the Tech Addicts Podcast. We're back for another year of fun and guff. Fun and guff, that's what we're all about here on the Tech Addicts Podcast. Yes, I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas and a pleasant new year and are geared up for a new exciting trip round the sun once more. As always, I am joined by Mr. Ted Salmon. How be you, Ted Salmon, this year?
I'm alright, except I've forgotten your name. What's your name again? It's been so long, I can't remember.
Just call me Steve or Aidan, whatever you like.
Okay. Yeah, I'm alright, thank you. Well, I'm not sure if I am alright, but I'll report back on that next week. The family is down with COVID, and I'm hoping I haven't got it too, so that's lurking around. Did you have a good festive season?
I tried to, although as you can probably hear from my voice, I was laden with the cold. It was not COVID. I did test, but I came down with a nasty cold around about the 22nd of December, 2 days after I finished work, and I've had it up until now, and it was quite nasty. It was a horrible, horrible cold, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. But I didn't let it hold me back from enjoying the festivities and spreading my germs.
Yeah, so everyone else has got it now.
Well, no, actually, I think I got it from my son. He had something a wee while before Christmas from school, so he gave it to me, and no one else has picked it up after me, so I must have been the end of the line. I quashed it, I destroyed it with my antibodies, and it lives no more.
Well done.
Don't thank me, worship me.
And what did you get for Christmas?
Well,
nice prezzies.
Oh yeah. I got some wool socks.
You know you're getting old when you get socks and hankies.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, that was pretty much it. I got a bottle of Jack Daniels and a bag of nuts. That was my Christmas box for the year. It wasn't particularly great when it comes to getting prezzies, but I did give many prezzies. I just didn't receive them because that's what happens when you get older and you're a bloke. What did you get? Did you get anything nice? Did you get that Castle Grayskull you were looking for last year?
That what?
Castle Grayskull? No.
Oh, that's lost on me.
Okay, fair enough. Well, yeah, that's the age difference. Some people are going, I got one of those back in 1983. Yeah.
A Castle Grayskull. I guess it's a game, is it?
No, it's where Skeletor lives in He-Man.
Well, I'm pleased it was lost on me. I'll tell you what I have got is a Logitech G Yeti Orb, which is a new microphone, and I tested this on. I'm using it right now, and I tested it on PSC last night with Steve. I didn't tell him what I'd done. I just said, how do I sound? Is it normal? He said, yep, you sound just like you normally do. And so this little 49 quid, instead of using a £200 Rode Podcaster or whatever it's called, this £49 Yeti Orb, which is the result of Logitech having bought out Blue, of course, because it's very much like the Snowball, a redesigned Snowball. It's ever so nice though. It's a cute little microphone. As I say, I'm using it now, and I'll continue using it to do recording until someone says, hang on a minute, you don't sound as good as you used to. So yeah, very nice.
I had no idea at all. I'd seen it in the show notes that you were going to talk about it, but I was expecting you to say, so I'm going to give that a go in the coming weeks, months, or years, and I'm going to continue recording on what it was you were recording on before.
It's really nicely designed, though. So they've taken the snowball idea and made it much more sexy looking and less kind of boring looking. And yeah, they've done a nice redesign job on it. And they've also pitched it for the gaming crowd by putting this dancing kind of RGB lighting thing on the top of it, and there's this extensive Windows piece of software you can download to control that and do what you like with it and change the sound and it's quite extensive what they've done with that piece of software. So yeah, I for £49, I think it was a real bargain.
On that topic, the Logitech software, is it the same software interface as you have for your keyboard and mouse?
No, it is different. And it's called, I'll tell you what it's called. It's called, where is it? I can't find it. The bugger's disappeared. Do you know, I know exactly where I put the shortcut on my desktop. And now it's gone. I can't remember. It's G something, I think.
Okay.
But it's it's a nice. No, it's not the same software. You're right. It would be even better if it was. But there's such a lot of depth in the piece of software that that the keyboard one probably wouldn't have been able to keep up with it anyway.
Well, see, that's one of my targets for this year is extra software that your computer requires to run your peripherals. I've tried to keep all of my computer that I have beside me as close to one brand as possible, but I've failed because my monitor is MSI, which requires gaming intelligence to be able to run effectively and be able to do most of the stuff that it has, because essentially it's a computer itself that needs software and drivers. And then there's Corsair inside my case that uses iHue for the glowing fans, and then there's Asus ROG stuff in there as well, and then the graphics card is a different brand, and they all require various pieces of software to be able to run their RGB and be able to work themselves better depending on what you're doing. And if you go down to the task manager in the corner, you've got a crap load of applications that are running in the background that are eating up resources. Some of them fail, some of them don't work well, some of them don't work with each other. So you end up with a couple of RGBs that maybe are out of sync with other ones. That was one of the things I had about Razr before Christmas. Remember I bought that soundbar?
Razr is huge, isn't it? The software, when you download the Razr software, it's like about 2 gigabytes.
Yeah, and there were 2 different software packages that needed to run on that Razr soundbar, as crap as it was. And it was, I maintain, it's still crap. But that, I got rid of that and got rid of the software, and I've still just gone down to, I think there's about 5 or 6 different pieces of software that run to get your peripherals going, and I hate that. I need to streamline it down, and I'm starting to think, well, what you do is you buy the same brand for various things, and that's what they're steering you to do. That's so I was hoping that maybe this microphone might work through Logitech's piece of software, but it doesn't. So you need an additional one. So actually, I'm not interested. No,
I found it now. It's called Logitech G Hub. And it's almost as extensive as the Razr Synapse, whatever it's called. There's loads of stuff in there in order to alter the sound and the voice and the everything and the lighting, of course. But yeah, you're quite right. I remember when I was dabbling with Razr, I think this is so over the top and it takes up so many resources going on in the background.
Yeah, because that ultimately affects, say, if you're a gamer, your frames per second, or your output of a video that you're trying to render. You know, that there's all kinds of impacts, and if one of those things goes wrong, it can actually screw up the graphics card, and your graphics card isn't working for the time that you're using the computer, and you might not get the optimum performance that you would prefer from that expensive, beefy graphics card that you've bought. That's in layman's terms. But yeah, the memory imprint is is important, the footprint that it leaves on your computer. So, what else did you get?
Agreed. Yeah. I also got the Soundcore AeroFit Pro earphones, which I think we spoke about on the show before we took our break, as coming soon, and they're really nice. I won't bang on about them because I did that on PSE last night, so tune into that if you want to hear, folks. I've also done a bit of a written review, so I'll link to that in the show notes, and that came with a free Soundcore Motion 100, which is 50 quid's worth. These earphones are 149 quid. That Soundcore Motion 100 is allegedly 49 quid, so I got that as a freebie. I'm not quite sure what to do with that. It's sitting there looking at me across the room now, all sealed new. I haven't opened it. And I'm thinking, I've got 101 different Bluetooth speakers. Do I really need another one? Or should I try and flog it? And talking of Bluetooth speakers, I really wanted the Marshall Acton 3, which it's kind of a Bluetooth speaker, but it's a mains one. And I begged Santa for this, left, right, and centre. But the mean, petty-minded bag of shite didn't bring it for me. So, bollocks to him, I say. Marshall Acton 3 is something. I don't need another speaker, really. It's just that I really fancied that one, and it looked really nice. But yeah, so my Logitech microphone and my AeroFit Pro earphones with free speaker.
Okay, well, that's still a decent collection. Nice one, yes. Well, while you were talking there, I suddenly did remember that I did buy a piece of technology over Christmas, but it's not something that it's really worth reporting too much on, so I'm just going to give a quick nod to it, because my stepdaughter got me a load of coffee beans. Mm-hmm. My Gaggia coffee machine that I had my inherited from my father, it was a big 800-pound Gaggia coffee machine. It died a nasty death about a year ago, but I don't think she cottoned on to that. And it was a bean-to-cup machine. It was gorgeous, loved it for everything that it was. And I've been on the fence about what to replace it with, and playing with cafetières and other types of coffee machines over the last wee while. And she presented me with several bags of coffee beans, and I was like, I don't actually have a grinder. I've been using powder for the last wee while, but thank you very much. So I went on.
Present ever.
Well, I figured I should have just buy myself a manual grinder or something like that and start grinding them up. But then that's a bit laborious and tiresome. So I don't want to just buy something right now without doing my research fully, because it's never been a pressing issue. Pressing? Is your coffee press? So I went on to Amazon. I had a £30 gift card from the various different links that we used during the year. And I figured, there's the Swan stainless steel bean-to-cup coffee machine that was £80. It's been reduced to £63.95. Add in the 30 quid gift card, and I got it for £33. And
looks nice.
It's really simple. It's very plastic. It's quite cheap, but it just does the job.
So you put the beans in that top bit, and it grinds them as well.
Yeah. Right. There's a wee blade that zooms around inside of it, and it's just basically, I wanted to be able to hit a button, get myself a cup of coffee, jump in the car, and drive to work. And I haven't been able to do that since the Gaggia died.
Right.
And this will fill a gap until I decide what I'm going to do, whether I go all Aidan Bell, remortgage the house and buy myself something ridiculous, or if I just decide I'm going to carry on with these cheap coffee machines, because 30 quid's nothing for bean to cup.
Has it got a hot plate? Is that thing at the bottom, is that hot?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Well, I think it's supposed to be, but I just haven't noticed it being. I haven't investigated it fully. It only arrived the other day, and I had a quick play with it, and I've poured myself 2 cups of coffee with it, and that was it. But there's an instruction manual that I should read, but I'm not going to because I'm a man.
Very, very nice indeed. Yeah, of course.
So that was a Christmas present to me, and I suppose from the listeners, because some of them have clicked through links to buy stuff. So thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, well done.
All right, moving into the news and the Mews and the views. We're not going to go back too far and look at things that have already been discussed by other places. We're just going to look at stuff that's a bit more recent. But we're going to start with something that's been around for a while. That's been people have been talking about it, and that is Google and Apple having to play nice with external app stores in Japan. And I reckon this is something that's going to roll out worldwide once, the likes of the EU will probably, I think they already have something in place that they're fighting about. But Google currently allows you to be able to install different app stores on your Android device. I don't think Apple does allow you to do this at all. But the other app stores are not allowed to charge you for applications. If any purchases are made for apps, it has to go through the Play Store. And I guess that helps in some ways protect people, but it also helps protect Google's bottom line. So it looks like Japan is taking a bit of action toward Apple and Google to insist that they allow a bit more competition on the mobile phone infrastructure. Ted, what do you think?
Have you seen in the fourth paragraph there? There's a link to favourite Play Store alternatives.
Yes.
And I went and had a look at that earlier, and I'd forgotten half of these, and they've listed out things like, I mean, there's some I've never heard of as well. Like, for example, TapTap I've never heard of, and itch.io and
That's a gaming website, is it not?
Is it? Or maybe it's a game-centric one then. Itch.io, yeah. There's also the Amazon App Store and the Samsung Galaxy Store, which we know about. There's on this website, they're actually saying the Amazon App Store is quite a good one because of the way it's been done. AppBrain, I remember AppBrain from decades ago, and everyone was using it at one time. That's really good. The Aurora site. Then there's a Huawei one because they can't use Google's anyway. But it just struck me as how many of these there are out there. And if Google and Apple are made to play ball, there's for Android anyway, there's already an infrastructure out there. Quite a lot of stuff that people can use if they want to. I don't often feel the need to. I guess if you're a gamer, you might. The amount of apps that I have on my phone and on my tablet are actually quite small. I tend to kind of not install very many. Do you?
Well, kind of, yeah. I actually sat down with my tablet over Christmas and I thought, I'm going to go and have a look for some new apps, for some new games to play, because I had a bit of free time, and I revert to playing the same old games over and over again. Right. There's one called Battle Void. I can't remember what it's called, Star Siege or something like that. Or it's a strategy space game that I've been playing for years, and I just enjoy it because I bought it outright. I don't get any ads during it. It is just sitting down and playing a bit of strategy gaming that relaxes me. I'm trying to find something like that in the Google App Store. It's always free to play rubbish that are just going to throw ads at you or encourage you to buy purple gems in order to upgrade this, and you can only do that through hard cash. And that's the frustrating thing about the Google Play Store, is that it really is money-centric.
Yeah.
Above all, and Google Play Pass is good and all, but even still...
As is Apple's.
Well, as is Apple's, yes. But Google Play Pass, there was a thing that my son downloaded, and in order for him to be able to do something, he had to buy... coins or whatever in this application that he was using, but it was through Google Play Pass, and I typed up a negative review saying this is not right. Through Google Play Pass, we're supposed to be able to use the features of the application. I think it was a video editor or something like that. And the developers replied saying, "How do you expect us to support ourselves?" It's like, well, that's not the point. Google Play Pass is there for you to have that ad-free experience and in-app purchase free experience.
That is exactly the same principle that I keep banging on about with YouTube and YouTube Premium. That Google allow creators to stick adverts inside their YouTube videos. And the argument is, well, how do you expect us to make a living? Well, that's not my concern. Your contract with Google is between you and Google, not me. My contract is with Google Direct, and I pay them for an ad-free experience. And I'm not getting it because they're allowing you to stick adverts in. And I think it's the same principle of what you're talking about here.
And at that moment, it's perfect to say, this podcast is sponsored by Ted. Ted Rants. Ted Rants and Ravings.
Anyway,
I think Rants and Raving, tune in later.
I think you're right. It will go worldwide. The Digital Markets Act have already passed it for the EU. Japan are jumping on. I'm sure it will roll out even further now, and because it is a bit of a monopoly, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I'm just downloading itch.io to my phone because it looks fantastic. There's games aplenty there, and if it's linked to the itch website, then I might have some games that I can redeem because I already have a. I didn't realise there was a mobile aspect of it because I don't know. I must be a moron. Well, yeah, that's how it works, isn't it?
No,
right.
I won't hear of it.
I've got it. I'm excited about that. That's what I'm going to do afterward. So thank you for that. Okay. But yes, F-Droid is something that I have on my tablet, I think, because it had a few apps that I needed to get. But yeah, I don't recognise too many of those aside from maybe Huawei App Gallery. But I remember them being a big thing a long time ago because I bought a lot of Arcos devices in my life. And they would always ship with alternative app stores and you had to sideload the Google experience onto them. So that's where these app stores probably survive the best. But then Samsung Galaxy Store's on there as well, which...
I'll tell you what annoys me about the Galaxy Store is there are certain apps where it offers to update them, and then when you say yes, it says we can't update it because it's a Play Store one. So it just sits there. The Galaxy Stores are just a bit odd in that respect. I'm guessing that for some reason the Galaxy Store. I'll tell you a good example. All the time that comes up is Channel 4. All 4 or whatever it's called, and it sits there. And I guess that what's happened is that by using Smart Switch or something, the Galaxy Store has installed that app, and it hasn't come from the Play Store, and so. It knows it's on the phone, it knows it's in its database, it knows that it needs to be updated, but when you try and do it, it says, no, I'm not doing that because you didn't install it via us, actually, you installed it in the Play Store. And have you not noticed that?
Is there not something about the Channel 4 app that it's not available? You're not able to use it? I've never actually... used it. I can't find it. It's not available for Android TV, and I'm on it now. Actually, Channel 4 television. I can't install it on any of my devices.
Why not? I can.
I know I'm a licensed payer. I should damn well be able to, but no.
It's full of adverts.
The button's grey out for install on devices.
You won't like it. It's full of adverts. Whenever you use it, you have enforced adverts. It's like watching Channel 4 on the telly, which I suppose is fair enough because it's a free service, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, the point is that these app stores are going to be made to shape up by the... In fact, could we say ship shape?
That's a good way to move into the next story. Because Hackaday have posted an interesting article about China's nuclear-powered container ship. Nuclear power and ships is not a new thing, but they are making significant advancements in the way that nuclear power is being used, especially whenever it comes to cargo ships as well. These new mega ships that are incredible. I remember going up the Panama Canal on board a cruise ship, the QE2 at the time, and I went on the land and filmed the ship going up through the locks, and some of the other ships that were going up there were incredible, with the amount of cargo that was hanging off the edges of it. And there were small cities that were travelling up there, and I just thought, I understand the principle of water displacement and how it floats, but you're still looking at it going, how can that float? It shouldn't. It's all made of metal.
Yeah.
So, destroyers, warships, heck, even submarines. There's a few nuclear submarines rotting away at the bottom of the sea that are causing concern. But we've got new developments being made in nuclear cargo ships. What do you know about this, Ted?
What I do know is that I was trying to count up the containers and how on earth they get to 24,000 on one ship, huge as it is. 24,000 standard kind of cargo crate thingies, whatever they're called.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. This and the other thing that jumped out at me with this story was that if they put one of these nuclear powered thingies into a ship or any vehicle which has been used by the military for years and years and years, they put it in when they make the ship, and that's it. It's there for life. There's no refueling. The amount of time and distance that the thing will be able to travel will just be completely endless. And I guess that's me being naive and not understanding what nuclear power does, but that's just phenomenal. No diesel needed, so it's good for the environment as well. It's just as you say, there's something questionable about the whole principle of nuclear power, I suppose.
Well, there is, yeah. I do think that. You're right.
Yes. Go on.
Fair enough. I do think that the money saved should be redirected straight into safe storage for the spent rods or whatever it is that they have used, setting up a sustainable method of dealing with the waste that is left over once the ships are done. It can't just be, look what we've done, and then once they come to the end of the life, then they're going, oh, wait, what do we do with these rotting carcasses of nuclear ships? Mm-hmm. Do we bury them? No, I think we need Superman to throw them into the sun. That's a bit like it. So we could invest the money in building a space elevator to hoist them up and then push them at the sun, and then we need never worry about them again.
Excellent.
Make sure everybody's off them first. Yeah.
Well done.
And the containers full of rubber ducks, as long as they've been removed as well, that'd be great. Right. Okay, over on PC Mag, they did a pretty interesting little article about the bits of tech that died in 2023. And I had a quick look through, and some of them are real cheats. Like, well, Twitter isn't really dead. It's just been rebranded and re-envisioned, as every piece of hardware or technology tends to be during its lifespan. But yeah, is there anything that stuck out and made you think, oh, I remember that. That was unfair, or thank goodness that's gone?
We could do a whole show on this article, couldn't we? There's so much in here. Month by month, they go through it. I suppose we should mention Netflix DVD business, which is, in America has kind of gone to the wall eventually. They made it last an awful long time. So that's a bit sad in a way. Amazon Smile, when they promised to give money to charities and stuff, they reckon that wasn't working out, and so they axed that, and so on. Really, that you can, as I say, you could spend hours going through all this stuff. Most of it we probably have mentioned on the show as the year's gone on, anyway. But I guess it's a bit sad. It feels a bit kind of Googlish when everything's killed off. We spoke about Jamboard. I've got to October now. Let's see, is it November? Anything leaping out, and December. Oh yeah, E3 and Comixology. So these gaming and comic shows are just all closing down. We did mention that on the show before as well. I don't know. Have you ever been to one of those?
No, I haven't. Well, I've been. Well, yeah, I did the European ones, but I never went to E3 or CES or anything like that. E3 was a bit of a sad one, but it kind of makes sense, and I think it was really COVID that killed it off, because they realised whenever they moved it online that it's so much easier and cheaper to do. And I figured the same was going to happen with things like Mobile World Congress and Google or Sony and things where they're doing product unveils. They can just invite people via the internet to attend instead of having to fly journalists out and give them hotel rooms and fancy applications and things like that, and hardware samples and stuff. That was that's a bit sad, really. I do miss that.
Yeah, I remember when I was a much younger person going to things like the motor show, and in Southampton they had the boat show, and it was just sort of these exhibition shows were just really good fun, and it's a good outing. Most people are not buying anything, although actually my family did at the motor show one year. We did buy a car, a Simca. Do you remember the Simca?
Simca?
SIMCA. And it was the crappiest car we ever had. It was I think it was Russian or Romanian or something, and it was just awful. But anyway, yeah, those exhibition shows were just really, really good. And I guess, yeah, you're right. People are realising that they cost money to put on, and they probably don't return what they should do, and everything can be done online.
There was I've banged on about the Spectrum show on YouTube a few times, and before Christmas, one of the articles they were doing was that a contributor to that show was going back through some of the memories that he had of attending microcomputer shows in the early 80s, because he'd kept all of the memorabilia, and what he'd spent his time doing over the years was putting together a plan of what he had done. You know, he'd got like the overground overlay or the map. Maybe he had a copy of the map of the show and worked out he went in through this door, and then he went down there and he's picked up this brochure that he's put into the bag, and he's gone round here and he's kept this all. And he's given you a bit of a sort of a tour of what he did whenever he went to that show back in the 1980s. And he spoke to this person about this game that was coming out, and then he went and saw this new microcomputer or this joystick that was due to come out. And it's fascinating, and showing pictures of what it looked like and what he was able to dig up on the internet of what happened to the company. And it's just, wow, it's a really beautiful walk down memory lane. I hardly recommend people doing that. And it's not just 1 year. He's done it for a couple of shows now. And I'm really, it's boring, I'm sure, to some people, but I love it, because I'd attended a few of those computer shows back in the 80s, and I'm sure some of the listeners on here remember them. In the UK, the big tech shows where Amstrad were showing off their brand new Sinclair Spectrum Plus 2 or 3 whenever it eventually arrived.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, moving on to police. The police will be able to run face recognition. Sorry, my cold's getting in the way of things. On 50 million driver's license holders, so they can basically scan your face, see who you are, and then match that up to the image that's held in the driver's license database, which kind of makes sense, but is a wee bit scary at that. Ted, you're going to get nicked.
Well, I kind of thought that they probably were already doing this. To be honest, I was quite surprised that they didn't, because if you're going to run a security department in your state or country or whatever, that's an obvious place to get data from. So when people are being naughty, running around invading Parliament, or in America, storming the Capitol like they did a few years ago, then I would have thought that was an obvious place to go and try and match things up. But obviously that's not happening, due to whatever reason, privacy concerns and what have you. But now it is. So if you've got a driving licence and you go storming Parliament, watch out. Or if you're involved in, for example, maybe football hooliganism or just anything antisocial or questionable, or any crimes or anything, and you've got a driving licence, then I guess people will just wear balaclavas, won't they?
Well, yeah, I live in a country where we frequently have issues that break out frequently, and you see kids in the street with balaclavas on or masks that are covering most of their face, chucking flaming Molotov cocktails and bricks and things like that at the police, and they're somewhat powerless to be able to do anything about it. And being able to compare that to the driver's license photograph is going to be tough work for anyone. And boy, they better get it right whenever they do. Ted, you were saying about how you were wearing those sort of, because you have a Harley Davidson, you wear a special type of sock type thing over the lower half of your face when you've got your helmet on, to keep your face warm and also to keep it dust free. And you wear it into shops so that you don't have to wear a mask and spread your germs or have germs spread at you when you're out and about. So that's going to cause a bit of a problem with this. They won't be able to compare you to your driver's license because you're not wearing that in your driver's license.
They'll be on, yeah, absolutely. But, if it wasn't for COVID, I wouldn't be doing that. When I go into a shop, I would take the mask down. But then I've got a full beard anyway, so you can't see much of my face anyway. I thought Google had got all this eye recognition going on now anyway. We previously reported on the show, we showed some videos of these. I don't know if you remember, they were showing examples of videos at a railway station and people walking through the railway station. And basically, face recognition was really easy for these AI solutions. And they also included eye kind of scanning stuff as well. So even if you've got a balaclava on, you might still get nicked because your eyes are exposed. Well, unless you wear sunglasses as well, I suppose.
But I suppose it's one of these things where if everything's working together, they should be able to paint a better picture. And using all of the tools will help increase identification as opposed to just using one tool and relying on it. So, yeah. All right, moving on to portable, non-evasive mind-reading AI. Oh, hang on a second. My mother is phoning me.
This is a big topic as well.
It is, yeah. It's a bit. I suppose initially you're thinking, "Oh my goodness, that's really worrying." Because if I'm wearing something like this and walking down the street, going, "Ooh, I wonder what she looks like in a bikini," then that's going to really cause me to be hauled in front of the police, I suppose.
Or perhaps her clothes drop off and you see it.
And you stand there getting a really, really good look at it. Really, really, really good look. Sorry, I was watching Bonham over Christmas.
Yeah.
This is more designed for a more serious aspect of someone who is unable to communicate quite as easily, and they'll be able to think their thoughts. Remember, we watched a film on Projector Room called Locked In?
Yeah.
About a Famke Janssen was locked in and unable to communicate, and she had to do so through, blinking, I suppose. Yeah. This is something that will be able to help that. And this is something that I've experienced in my life where I wasn't able to communicate with my father during the last 3 months of him being alive. And this would have been able to help him because his mind was working. His body just wasn't able to physically communicate with me, so he would have been able to wear this and tell me if there was any secret stashes or hidden gold bullion that he happened to have, secret accounts, or what those 2 keys in his cufflinks box are for. Damn it, I need to know. So this would have been useful then.
Yeah.
And we're getting there. We're going to see something like this soon.
Yeah. Well, soon is a maybe not the word to use. I don't know. This is all kind of theoretical stuff based in university laboratories, and they're kind of having a go at making all this work. One of the interesting applications for it that they're quoting in this is people that have got, for example, false limbs or, replacement limbs, which people will be able to control by, if they can't control it with muscles like they traditionally do with false limbs to some degree, they'll be able to just think it. But for the man on the street, for us, who doesn't have a disability or what have you, or failing capabilities like your father, can you imagine just looking across the room at a light switch and just thinking turn off, and then it just turns off. So whatever you think, it takes home AI and automation to a completely new level where you just have to think things and you can make them happen. Magical, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. And I suppose Google's tried to get there where you can do that with your voice and failed miserably, because Google Assistant is one of the worst things out there now, because it just does not bloody work. But yeah, this is scary, but still amazing too. Yeah. All right. There's a comparison between the UK broadband mobile speeds and, well, between 2022 and 2023, and we get to see how well we've progressed as the prices gradually continue to rise here in the UK. And it appears that our UK country rank for fixed line broadband, we were 56th in 2022 in the race for the best broadband, and in 2023 we were also 56th. For mobile rankings, we were 44th in 2022, and after that huge investment in 5G and rolling out of all those masts, we've dropped to 51st in 2023. So things are not great here in the UK. Whenever you think that we're apparently one of the most technologically advanced countries in the world, it turns out we're not. Having a look at the 2023 fixed broadband speed rankings, Singapore comes in number 1, Hong Kong, Chile, the United Arab Emirates, China and Thailand all beat the pants off us. I don't actually think we make it into that list at all. The Philippines is at the bottom, which is around about number 30 or so, and then we'd be a good bit below that. For mobile speeds, United Arab Emirates comes in number 1, Qatar comes in number 2, Kuwait, China, Macau, and Norway are all way ahead of us.
Yeah, the surprising bit for me is Denmark, Iceland, these Scandinavian countries, and even the Netherlands. They're all up there for the fixed broadband speed. But if you look at the mobile speeds as well, if you discount the UAE and Qatar and Kuwait and so forth, then very high up there is Norway and Denmark and Iceland. Yeah, as you say, knocking spots off of our speeds, which are averaging out at, well, as you say, it's off the bottom of the list. But we're on 2022, we were on 45 Mbps, and the top one in UAE is 269, so over 200 more Mbps than the UK. It's just it's just interesting. There's an awful lot of data in this linked article, which interesting parties will be able to kind of drill down and through. But interesting comparison.
And also, it's lacking some data for you to be able to make a more informed opinion about it. For example, how much countries are investing in their broadband speeds and mobile speeds. Like Singapore could be chucking billions into it so that they're top of the list. And well, actually, they're not very high up the list on mobile speeds. But they are on broadband speeds. Yeah. Whereas the UK, I know, have put quite a bit of money into it, and they were very vociferous about the amount of money that they were investing in both mobile and home broadband speeds early on in the year. But that doesn't seem to have come through, or has the companies that they've been investing in just pocketing it and just laughing in the face of making people continue on with the copper wires that were installed back in the 1960s, 70s and 80s. I look at my country itself, Northern Ireland, how many years we didn't have anything above 30 megabits per second, and then all of a sudden my hometown, which suddenly became a city, got Virgin in, and as soon as Virgin came in, then BT were like, oh well, we're going to have to do something about that as well, because everyone's going to move to Virgin to get the faster speeds. and BT suddenly developed their infrastructure in my hometown, my home city now, and now I've got options to get 1 gigabit per second broadband. That's it's unfair. It really is. They should have been doing that back at the time, not rolling it out really, really slowly. You still there?
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting stuff.
Yeah, and I think mobile broadband is obviously the one that affects you the most, because you've seen it change from tariff to tariff as you go from company to company. You were on Vodafone at the start of last year, and then you ended the year on EE, wasn't it? You've moved to?
And the difference is huge.
Yeah, and where do you think Vodafone is now? Do you think they're still providing the same crappy service that you tolerated this time last year?
Apparently, according to local people, they haven't really done much to change what they did. The ones for North Wales seem to be EE and 3, so kind of take your pick. And on a good day, I can get like download speeds of like 3 and 400. And Vodafone, I never ever saw more than about 40, and that was on a good day.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
It is just, obviously the big companies lining their wallets, really. The taxpayer investment goes into it, but there's very little in the way of return whenever it comes to the companies themselves having to invest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just like the railroads. Railroads! All right, moving on. Google has agreed to settle $5 billion lawsuit regarding its incognito positions. Now, I remember this originally arriving where people were upset. I think it was people in California were really upset that they were using incognito, feeling that they were, being private. And cookies and things like that were not being utilized in the same way that you would expect in incognito ways, and you would be secure and private, but everything was being reported back to Google, and people were making complaints that was not, as what's the word, transparent as they would have liked to have known. And all of their information was being sent back to Google. It just wasn't being sent back to the others that would normally get all of your data whenever you are reviewing in non-incognito mode, or cognito mode, I suppose it would be.
Except for your cellular provider, if you're using cellular, who get it all anyway.
So things weren't as private as people were led to believe. So they decided to take Google to court, and it was the California. I saw it here earlier, but maybe it's not in that. Oh no, it is. Yes, it's they felt that Google had violated the federal wiretapping and California privacy laws, and they were looking for up to $5,000 per affected customer. But Google has now settled out of court with this lawsuit, and obviously that doesn't mean that they've been found guilty, and it probably would have been, they would have had to pay worldwide fees for everyone who was affected by this had they been found guilty in court. So they've settled out of court, but there's no details yet as to what the agreement is. Ted, this stinks, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. Does a lot of it. I think that people have been misled by what Google were claiming incognito mode was. Fair enough, and they should be hauled over for that. But the truth is that incognito mode is a bit pointless anyway. Frankly, the main use, I think, of incognito mode, which is what they should have focused on rather than privacy and security, is that what you search for doesn't become part of your Google account and your Google tracking. And in that respect, if you go and search for some cream for your bottom because you got a sore bum, and you don't want that coming up in your Google account anywhere, and you don't want it coming up on your next visit to YouTube, where it's littered everywhere, that you're suddenly becoming, you need a new Sol or whatever it is. There are some things you search on online and not have that become part of your so that is different to an incognito mode that is about tracking and selling back out the content to other companies. If the information is kept within Google, that's one thing. But if they're letting other people have the data, I don't know enough about it to really authoritatively speak about it. But I do know that that's the kind of way in which I use incognito mode. Is I switch it on when I don't want later for Google to suddenly think I'm interested in that thing that I'm searching for, and I use that quite a lot. When I'm searching online to do with the podcasts and so forth, or a particular actor or someone that's died or something, I don't want Google then thinking I'm interested in that person, or a musician. You're just looking it up because you want. I don't want them then suddenly my YouTube gets littered with videos of that person singing or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's how I use it. But they should have been clearer. Is that it is right.
It is. It's pretty much a public perception thing where people were wanting to use their home computer to search for pictures of such and such in a bikini, and they don't want Google or any of their tracking cookies or anything like that to know that they're searching for such and such in a bikini.
Yeah.
And now that they've found out that actually Google is keeping a record of the fact that they've searched for such and such in a bikini, Eric Reisenberg in a bikini. Okay, we'll go with him. Risberg, sorry. Then that becomes part of your Google profile. They know that about you. You like to find pictures of Eric in a bikini. And people are a bit aggrieved by that. Obviously, this is going to be in the terms and conditions, but like so many things, with this whole big hoo-ha with Sony and the Discovery Channel, and how they were taking videos off of people despite the fact that they had bought it. It was becoming evident, and it's been well known since it came about, that whenever you buy a product you buy a piece of media from Apple or from Sony or whatever, you're actually only buying a license for as long as they deem that license lawful. You're not buying it to keep forever. Mm-hmm. And that was something, I think it was actually Bruce Willis and Robert De Niro actually made clear, because they found out that they'd bought a huge amount of music and they tried to leave that to their kids in their will. And then Apple went, well, you can't do that. And they're like, hang on, no, I bought these tracks. And they went, no, you didn't. You bought a license for your lifetime or until we decide otherwise. So everything is being hidden in the terms and conditions. But what you expect when you're getting something and what you receive are two different things. So people were using incognito thinking, oh, that's me on the internet, incognito, no one's going to know what I can do, so I can go and do whatever I like. But Google are taking that information, which is, again, the perception of the perception is being manipulated. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's unfair, but it's to be expected whenever it comes to these giant companies. They're not going to lose any money on everything that they collate. I think I wrote a reply to someone recently who was giving off about their Google search results and how they'd searched for something in particular and all they'd got was shopping links. It's like, well, Google aren't really a search giant anymore. They just want to know what you're interested in. That's what their business is. They're not interested in giving you a useful response to your search. They just want to know what you're searching for. Mm-hmm. That's their business. Mm. So you can stick whatever you like into Google. You're not going to get what you're looking for. You're just giving that information that you are interested in whatever you're searching for. Indeed. And that's where we go with that. Yeah. Yes. So they're not going to provide you with an aspect that you are not giving that information to them. Mm-hmm. All right. Moving from one thing to another. cleavage.
Just to note that before we recorded today, we decided we mustn't do a 2.5-hour podcast. It's far too long, and we're an hour in and not even out of the news section.
Well, I think the next few sections are shorter. This is the big section. and people are busting for me to get onto this because cleavage was mentioned. And it's all about how Twitch had decided to allow nudity as long as it was artistically done. And that is the wooliest way to say, what is art when it comes to nudity? If there are people out there who would quite easily argue that what's a nice girl like you doing in an anal movie like this is art to someone somewhere. Mm-hmm. But putting nudity into Twitch streaming, as long as it was artistically done, is just a terrible, terrible idea. And we got to see this roll out over Christmas in the most amazing ways. Did you happen to see any of this happen? Develop? No. Well,
tell all.
Well, you see, obviously Twitch, to be bare bones about it, to be stereotypical about it, if you think about a gamer, you imagine a horny, lonely guy sitting at his computer playing a game who can't get a girlfriend. That was me for many years. I sat and played. And if I had access to Twitch, I probably would have gone on and subscribed to the cutest girl I could find, could see her playing a game. And Twitch gradually became a sort of clean version of OnlyFans, where you got to see very, very beautiful women and very beautiful guys as well, don't get me wrong, playing games.
Right.
And it ticked both boxes. Gradually, more cleavage would be shown. Girls would start to look sexier. Guys would start to look sexier as well. They would wear less and less clothes to attract more subscribers, right, to attract more tips and things. So it became a way of life. It was a decent job for those who could get it. And sex sells, obviously. There's no illusion that it doesn't. So Twitch was like, well, look, if you can't beat them, join them. But we can't just allow all sexual content on. Otherwise, we turn into OnlyFans. We turn into Pornhub. So we've got to have a line. So they decided to describe it as artistic sexual content is allowed. So you're allowed to do twerking and pole dancing are seen as artistic. Okay. They are by some people somewhere. Ted, I'm sure you'll agree. There's nothing more artistic. You go to the Tate Modern, seeing someone gyrating around a pole could well be considered artistic. But it just kind of opened the floodgates, and I think it was within 24 hours we started seeing, or I didn't start seeing, I just started seeing news reports about how Twitch had kind of gone OnlyFans, and sexual themes were being argued about as to what really is deemed artistic and should have been restricted and should not be allowed on the platform at all.
Isn't it? This is what Tumblr did, wasn't it? They went through this whole thing, didn't they?
Well, yeah, it's a really difficult thing to do. I really feel sorry for Twitch because they tried to do the right thing and their user base just took the piss, really.
Right.
And there's no easy way to navigate this at all. Like, even talking about it makes you sound like a bit of a perv, because I know a bit about what happened there. I know that there was hot tub parties that people were able to do, where they would be in their swimsuit playing a game in a hot tub, as long as they weren't showing any particular amounts of flesh. I got that off of a TV show. I think it was Good Morning Britain or something. They were discussing how that was one of the sexual themes that were being abused. So Twitch had to take action on it and make it deemed a bit more proactive in dealing with the sexual content that was on there, without turning the whole thing into, well, OnlyFans or Pornhub.
Right.
And they certainly don't want to lose their artists that they have on Twitch to OnlyFans, if OnlyFans were to start doing harder sexual gaming sessions. Yeah?
Okay. Yeah. I see the problem is that actually there's a huge user base out there that want this stuff, but they are considered by the rest of society to be saying we should be standing out against this because it's not normal and people shouldn't be allowed to do it. Whereas actually there's an awful huge amount of people that do want to do it. And so, in the meantime, TikTok do what they bloody well like.
Well, yes, but they have rules in there as well. Obviously, you're not allowed hardcore pornography. But, there isn't a straight line down to say yes and no, what you can and can't do. You can make arguments. I mean, my wife she subscribes to someone on YouTube who's all about fashion. And she's a very attractive young lady. And she does bikini hauls where she will buy a bunch of bikinis and she will try them on to show you what they look like. It's incredibly good stuff. You should really get into it, especially on a 4K screen. But that's deemed as okay on YouTube because essentially it's fashion.
Yeah,
bikinis are a fashion accessory or a fashion statement that people use and buy and would like to know what things look like on. And I think it goes further than that, but it's still allowed because it is fashion.
Yeah, and these bikinis, I've noticed on TikTok particularly, where I think
when we're researching this, of course.
Well, I kind of scroll through TikTok and just look at what's going on, and there are smaller and smaller and smaller bikinis that just about cover nipples, just about cover genitals, and they're just tiny weeny. It's all but nudity.
Tiny weenies as well? I think you're searching for the wrong things.
And there's also, I've noticed on TikTok recently, in order for users to get round the rules of nudity, they have these flash up images of nude women. So it's an ordinary kind of picture, and then every few seconds you'll get a kind of flash of a naked woman. You can just about see it, which presumably it means it's getting through their sensors and they're not picking up on it.
Right.
And there's all sorts of ways that I guess these people are just trying to get around it, instead of just making people go to, proper porn sites, I suppose, and just doing it that way anyway, which I guess anyone could do if they want to. So it's an interesting topic, isn't it?
Well, I see what you mean. Yeah, you get to say I would see the YouTube Shorts because I don't use TikTok, but YouTube Shorts, you'll get the thumbnail of the YouTube Short will be a very attractive lady with a big bottom,
right,
standing seductively, and then you watch the video and it's a collection of pratfalls with people falling over, and the YouTube video is called you won't believe what happened next, and it's just a bunch of people falling over. Then all of a sudden there'll be that image that you saw on the thumbnail in there for a couple of seconds, and then it moves on to other rubbish, and you're like, why? That's only there so that they can use it as the thumbnail to get more clicks. Yeah. So it is. It's the platform being abused by the users or by the creators.
People will always do that. I saw this. I was looking for a review of something on YouTube the other day, a piece of tech, and somebody from, I think they were from India or Pakistan or something, had put a picture of Marcus Brownlee reviewing it as their placeholder. So anyone that is just not really scrutinising and reading all the data underneath the placeholder will just think that's a Brownlee video and click on it. That's the kind of thing that they ought to be stopping people from doing.
Oh, yeah.
Stop the nudity. As they start nudity's all right.
There used to be a list of videos that were on fire, going up, and people would just rip it down and stick it on their own YouTube channel. And you'd get a copyright notice, a couple of days later saying your video is the same as this person's video. Yeah. It's like, well, I had it first, so shouldn't you have stopped that video from coming out, because you're supposed to go in and take action, but you see that they've got, say, 20,000 views on that video, which have been basically stolen from your channel. It's like, well, that you should be doing something about it and not asking me, what do I do about this? That's all back-end stuff where people just do everything they can to manipulate and break the system that is there. And Twitch is suffering from this now as well. And as soon as they try to do something about it, they just get people who are taking the piss. And if they ban them, then all of a sudden it becomes a whole to-do about people going, well, that's not fair. You said that what's a nice girl doing in an anal movie like this is artistic, in my view.
As I understand it, Tumblr had to backtrack on their new rules of nudity. Yeah. They took this really hard line and said, no, a bit like Twitch are doing here, this is what is defined as, blah, blah, blah. And then they suddenly realised overnight, well, not overnight, but very quickly, no one was using it anymore. So they changed it back and, redefined it a bit. So I guess that's probably what Twitch will do in the end.
Yeah.
I'll have to have a look at Twitch. I didn't know all this was going on.
I think maybe the only way to deal with it is to allow anything goes and just focus on having their age-rated content.
Right, yeah.
To make sure that everyone who's on it is exposed to the right stuff. And then you opt in to things. Do you want to see sexual content? Then you click the flag. But people are so heart scared to do that because Google Incognito mode won't let you do it.
But also you've got the problem then of, checking people's birth certificates that they're not underage, and that the whole thing about responsibility by publishers and creators of not exposing stuff to children. The thing's a minefield, really, isn't it? It was probably better when we didn't have any of this and you went down to the newsagent and looked at a copy of Playboy on the top shelf.
But they have to be put in brown bags. But then they're artistic. Should you not put a copy of... There's a pretty provocative picture on the front of Good Housekeeping this month. Or some Cosmopolitan has some sexy cover. So should it be in a brown paper bag, much like a Razr next to it?
When I was doing my paper round in the 1970s, there was no such thing as bags around anything, and I used to deliver the Mayfair to one of our customers on my round. It was just open, so you just stand there by a wall somewhere reading this thing before you go reading it, looking at it, drooling over it.
There's an interesting article on page 14, Mr.
And then they started putting them in plastic covering, so you couldn't actually do that. But I don't remember. I think paper bags is probably much later on, isn't it?
I think they were just cheaper, weren't they? Brown paper bags, or it was the newsagent, because a little old lady around the corner had complained about the saucy things up on the top shelf. So they just took the latest issue and put it into that same brown paper bag, week after week or month after month. Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, interesting stuff, eh?
Certainly is. We should just ban children from the internet. Oh, that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Sony. We're still getting through the news here. That was a long one. No, we're moving into Hardline for the hardware. Flipping heck, we've moved section. It's only taken an hour. Sony has dipped its toe into VR, but it's now published a patent for a new football tracking controller. And this is, it's like a box with sort of orbs in it that you put your feet on top of and control things. Now, I'm trying to imagine what game it would be that you play where you control things with your feet. And I was thinking driving, but then no, this wouldn't work for driving, and it certainly wouldn't be football because you have to kick a ball, not roll your feet on top of it.
Flying an aircraft. Or a spaceship.
No, well, that would be one game for this whole controller. I don't buy it, and I'm thinking that it's possibly something similar to this, but they've dressed it up as this so that it's not obvious. Because, being able to run on the spot is one thing that gamers have not been able to do when it comes to Call of Duty and that kind of thing, being able to run around.
Or it could be, what about an accessibility thing for people with no arms?
Oh, yeah.
So they could control with their feet instead. We used to have this guy when I was a carer who had no use of his arms, and he had a foot pedal, and he typed a whole book with it by just painstakingly going letter by letter. And
amazing.
So that could be, that could be a use, I suppose.
Absolutely, yeah. But I guess maybe they're just, patenting it because they can. Someone came up with this idea, so why not slap a patent on it?
Yeah.
And keep it just in case someone else comes up with something that's similar in the future.
Indeed.
But we'll see. Going forward. Okay, Ted, you like your ebooks, so were you excited whenever Android Central published their review of the Onyx Books Palma?
This looks really nice. This is like, the only problem with this is that it's not a phone. If they put a SIM card in it and made it a phone with a phone app in it, it would have just been brilliant. But they haven't. They've stopped short of that. So it's basically an Android e-reader. It's a Kindle in the shape of a phone, nice and dinky. Of course, you need to have good eyesight, although I'm sure you can raise the size of the text. And it just looks brilliant. They just should have gone the whole hog and made it into a phone. No idea how much it's going to cost. No idea if you're going to be able to buy it worldwide. These things tend to come out of China first, of course, and lots of them don't make it to the West at all. But I'll tell you what, if that was going to come up for a couple of £100 or something, it'd be very tempting. It would be even more tempting if it had a phone in it, though.
It's not going to be a couple of £100.
No.
Well, I suppose it's $279.99 to get it shipped to America.
Okay.
So it's always dollar for pound. So whenever they do start shipping to the UK, it'll be the same.
So make it 350 and put a SIM card in it.
Well, yeah. I'm on their website now to see if they have any other they've only got the one option, black or white. Yeah.
It's so cute, and I just love it.
White is sold out.
It's a bit like the Yota phone back in the day, and it just looks like the same idea completely. And it looks retro, and the way they've done the screen that sinks into the front of the phone, it's not flat facing. I really, really like that. I'd love to have one of those, but I'm not going to pay nearly £300 for it.
Yeah, it does seem to be a wee bit overpowered for an e-book reader type thing. So it does beg our belief that they haven't got a SIM card version of it at the moment, but hopefully that'll be coming.
Indeed.
Quite right. All right, next up is the Samsung Galaxy Tab Active 5, which is one of their military-grade rugged devices, is breaking cover, they say, over in Sam Mobile. So we're starting to see some images coming through now of, we do seem to like these tough, rugged devices because Ted likes to hang around the builders' yards and with the builders.
Wolf whistle at the builders.
Quite right, yes. So what can we expect in this tablet?
Oh. Lots of military-grade protection as usual. It's a step up from last year's Active 4 because it's got a more up-to-date chipset and more RAM and a better screen. It's still an LCD display, which is fine because of the projected use for it outside all the time. It's also got an S Pen. I can't remember if the 4 had an S Pen or not, but that makes a lot of sense as well for someone on a building site that's making notes as they go with gloves on probably. IP rating.
It's probably worth noting that the S Pen has been redesigned as well. It's not just the standard S Pen that you get in your with your tablet or with your over-the-counter phones. This is a tough and rugged one.
Yeah, and waterproof and all the rest of it. It's sadly arriving on Android 12, which is a bit unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I guess that Samsung will keep it updated going forward. if they're anything like their other phones. But yeah, Exynos chipset, which looks very capable at 5 nanometer, blah 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 blah. There's a 128 version, micro SD card slot. I'm sure it's got half decent speakers, though that's not mentioned here by Sam Mobile. Yeah, I like the look of that, and I don't have a use for it personally, but I'm sure that'll sell very well in industry.
Yeah, no, I think it looks kind of cool, and I would like to get a couple and throw them at a few people and see whether or not they hold together. Well, let me ask you this, Ted. You've been using the Pixel Watch for a while now. Have you ever looked at it and thought, I'd love to replace that with a Game Boy Advanced SP?
This is absurd, isn't it? There's this watch, inverted commas, that you put on your wrist, and you're right. It looks like a game, a 3DS, or 3D XL. In fact,
this is the SP. This is the small one, the square one that flipped up a bit like the Samsung phone. The Game Boy Advanced SP. I have one.
Okay, it looks to me like my XL, my 3DS XL.
It was longer, was it not? It was more of a rectangle.
Yeah, I guess it was. You're right. But anyway, the point is that this is just absurd. And when you look at the picture of it, where's the picture of it with... there's a photograph I saw of it somewhere on someone's wrist. I can't find
the Kickstarter
that.
listing, I'm on it at the moment. It's got a bunch of pictures like that.
Okay.
I'll stick a link in there.
How ridiculous. Who on earth is going to put this on their wrists unless you are, 8 years old, a Bart Simpson age, and we're just dabbling with stupid things like that.
There, I backed it now.
How much is it?
$179.
Anyway, very, very silly.
Yeah.
What does it do?
It should be delivered to me by the end of January.
Really?
Yeah. I love this.
Do you?
It is. It's not quite as big as a Game Boy Advance SP.
Okay.
But it is fairly sizable compared to a watch. I did see the dimensions when I was scrolling down earlier. It runs an ARM Cortex M33, 160 megahertz with 2 low-power cores and Bluetooth as well. It's got 1.5 megabytes of RAM, 8 megabytes of external RAM, and a dedicated low-power 2D graphics processor inside of it. It can handle about anything DOS era. Now, DOS era, that's 1980s to early 90s. So it could potentially get up to Nintendo 64 or PlayStation 1 at a push, but you're probably going to kill it if you try doing something like that. But it'll certainly handle Super Nintendo, Mega Drive, Master System, Game Gear, which is my focus here, and the original Game Boy, being able to play those on the go. And it has a screen on the top of it, so whenever you close it, it's like an e-ink screen that shows you the time and any notifications. And then whenever you open it, it's got a color screen inside of it, plus XYBA, plus the D-pad as well. I think it's an absolute joy. I absolutely adore it.
You'll last about 10 minutes with that on your wrist. Fortunately, it's got a big magnet on it by the looks of it. You can take it off your wrist and stop being silly and just use it off the wrist.
But do you know how cool this is going to be whenever your wife goes into River Island and you go and sit outside, you pull out your phone, you think, I'll have a game of Flappy Bird or something like that. No, you could take your watch off and play Super Mario. And it's always on you. There's the amount of times where I've gone and sat down and thought, I wish I brought my Ambernick with me because I'm going to be stuck here for about 7 or 8 minutes. And I've got nothing to do but to look at that fat person over there or look at those ugly people.
It wouldn't be always on me.
Oh, that's because you'd be using your Pixel Watch, wouldn't you? No, I'd be playing The Legend of Zelda. Oh, this is class. I'm looking forward to going through the videos. It looks like it's quite sizable too, but it's not intrusively sizable. So it might be that.
Bloody well is intrusively sizable. I completely get what you're saying. It looks like a lot of fun and a great gadget, but not on a wrist as a watch. It just makes it absurd. Just have it as a standalone gaming machine to put in your pocket, not to try and make it look like a outsized Casio size massive watch on your wrist.
No, I think this is great, and if anyone says otherwise, I'll hit them in the face with it.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, I'm all over that. I want one. Really do want one.
Fair enough. Now, my mum sent me a message yesterday saying, "Ooh, my do not disturb is syncing on my watch, my Pixel watch." And I said, "Oh yeah, I did see a story about that." And I didn't think for 1 minute that she would be the person that piped up and said, "I can see it working," but she was. Good for her. And she alerted me to it. And yeah, apparently you see on Samsung Galaxy watches, this has worked always, and it's fine. So if you put Do Not Disturb on your Galaxy phone, it just does it on the watch as well, and vice versa. On the Pixel watch, apparently, according to my mum, it didn't do that, and according to this article we're linking to, and now it does. So everyone's happy. It also plugs into the bedtime stuff as well. So that whole Do Not Disturb and bedtime mode is rolled in together, and at least one person has seen it working.
Well, that's amazing. A feature that should have been there from the word go has finally rolled out now that they're on the second generation of the Pixel Watch.
Yes.
Terrific.
No
well
wonder,
done, Google.
No wonder people buy Google, Samsung stuff, is it? You really?
Yeah. Well, I did spend... No, I'll not rant about that. Maybe another day when it comes to Samsung and their bloody connections and Google Fit and Weight Watchers and all that. Motorola Razr, the next... Oh, we've moved into section. Oh, I better signal that. We're moving into the phone zone. Motorola Razr. Next Gen Edition is slated to launch with a first-gen AI-powered foldable smartphone. So we're starting to see a time when AI is becoming a thing that they're using to sell phones. Now that the market has become somewhat stagnant, people are bored of flip phones and foldable phones. People are bored of feature phones. People are bored of big cameras and flashes and all that kind of stuff. They're having to move into AI.
I'm actually quite
excited, Ted.
I'm actually quite surprised that Motorola are not ahead of the bunch here, because they have been with particularly that flip phone, which had features that other flip phones didn't have, particularly Ready 4 over Samsung removing decks from theirs or not adding decks to theirs. And I thought that Motorola would have been out with the whole AI thing before Samsung and before Google did, but it looks like, but yeah, the news is this year coming, they are going to jump on board, not just for the flip phones and the folding phones and all that kind of new stuff. Well, actually, Motorola haven't got a folding phone, have they? They've got flip phones though. But also for Candy Bar flagships as well. So using the whole LLM and getting the AI going on their phones, which I kind of would have expected, really. Yes, I think you're right. Going forward, everyone's going to be on the bandwagon with this.
Which is a worrying thing because, well, it's going to be a subscription-based jobby, isn't it?
We'll come to that in another story, but it looks like that's what Google want.
Yeah. More on this later. 2 morons on this later. Right. Sorry, 1 moron. I'm not going to call you a moron, Ted. That's not fair.
Thank you.
I won't need a Samsung phone no one will need a Samsung phone to benefit from from Galaxy's S24's AI call translations, apparently, because Samsung's going to be bringing it through the Galaxy AI suite.
I'll slightly rephrase what you said there.
Okay.
The call translation feature, what they're saying is it won't work if you haven't got a Samsung Galaxy device yourself. But what they're saying is that if someone calls you that doesn't have a Samsung Galaxy phone, then the translation will still be available to you to do on your phone. Whereas at the outset, they thought that it was only going to be a Galaxy feature that worked between Galaxy phones. But the wise money now is on the S24 range. that being not the case, and as long as you've got a Galaxy phone, that feature will work whoever phones you.
Well, that makes more sense.
Indeed.
Because they could keep it to the flagships as well. Imagine only the Galaxy S24 phone series handles it.
Well, they do that with other things. Samsung do lock down some things about their features that don't work across the board with other phones. So it wasn't a slam dunk. A slam dunk.
Amazing. Well, we'll look forward to seeing that rolling out when it rolls out. The name of the game. We're going to start off with...
It's the 17th of January. It's the Unpacked event, Samsung Unpacked event. When's the 17th of January? It's 10 days' time, so...
It is.
It'll be just before our next recording, won't it? That's handy.
It is, yeah.
Sorry, do carry on.
No, you're all right. We're going to go back in time to Stadia. Remember Stadia?
Oh,
it's coming back. Google are relaunching it at the end of the week. No, they're doing stuff with the Bluetooth support for the Stadia controller. If you have one, you can convert it from Stadia-based to just being a flexible Bluetooth controller that you can use with your tablet or your smart TV or whatever you happen to be using it with. I have mine paired up with my tablet and I play Grand Theft Auto via Netflix on it, and it's great. It really is. It's such a good, comfortable controller. The only problem is that it's a bit of a pain in the ass to have to pair, because I have to go online to check and see how I pair things. Maybe because it's white, I should write down how to pair it on the back of it or something like that, or stick a label to it.
I think the news here was though that they were going to stop people transferring it to Bluetooth at the end of 2023, and they've decided to extend it to the end of 2024. So if you haven't yet done it, it's not too late. Isn't that what this is saying?
It is, yes. Right, yeah, they're giving you
okay.
another year. If you have a Stadia controller knocking around somewhere, you can go and convert it to do this. Yeah. And I thoroughly recommend people do, because it's a great controller. This is one thing that Google got absolutely right, in that controller was very, very comfortable to use, and it uses good technology inside it for gaming controllers. It's far, far better than the NVIDIA Shield controller that I used for a while on my Shield TV, that started suffering Joy-Con drift almost as soon as I opened the box. Ted, you've got loads of these, don't you? Or did you sell them all to poor old Gareth Williams?
Gareth Williams has got all mine. There must be about 4. I think the last count was 4 of them. I kept trying and trying and trying, and you kept encouraging me. And every time I got one, I lasted 5 minutes and thought, what am I doing? I don't want this.
Well, it works well with things like Xbox game or cloud support. I got a free subscription to that over the Christmas holidays and played it once, and it was such a waste of time. What a shit service that is. Yeah, you open it up and you sit and you watch this ship fly through space going awaiting connection as you wait for someone to quit so that you can get in.
Oh, right.
You don't just play your games. You have to sit and wait in line, and if you decide, I'm done playing this, I'm going to play something else, you have to sit and wait in line again. At least with Stadia, you were able just to jump onto it and play it, if you're playing the premium version, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Moving on. Retroid. Oh, God, this looks great. Retroid Pocket 4 and the Retroid 4 Pro. If people have heard of that before, Retroid make the Pocket 3, which is generally considered to be one of the best gaming handhelds out there for emulation on the go. It runs, I think it's Android, I can't remember. You can correct me if you like. And it has a bunch of emulators, and you just load up a card full of ROMs that you legally own, and play the entire game library of a particular game console as you wish on new modern hardware. They are terrific. There's a whole market available that does these in various different forms, and one of the most popular was the Retroid Pocket 3 and the Pocket 3 Plus. But they are now superseding these with the Pocket 4 and the Pocket 4 Pro, which will be coming fairly soon. The Pocket 4 will have the MediaTek Dimensity 900 inside of it, whilst the Pocket 4 Pro will have the Dimensity 1100. And they will be able to support, that should be PS2 levels of gaming on the go, and perhaps even original Xbox as well. There will be 4 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM inside of it. The Pocket 4 Pro will have 8 gigabytes of RAM. They run Android 13. The Pocket 4 runs Android 11. The Pocket 4 Pro runs Android 13. Not sure why that is, but we'll see. They've got USB-C support. There's 128 gigabytes of expandable storage, Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.2, and a 5,000 milliamp hour battery in both of the devices. The Pocket 4 should be about $150, and the Pocket 4 Pro will be $200. And you'd probably be best ordering them through somewhere like AliExpress or a recommended retailer, because they're not the easiest things to... I don't think you can just jump onto Amazon and buy these. You have to get them shipped in. I had to with my Ambernick, and I've never looked back, although I am looking forward. And I think I'll probably upgrade my Ambernick to this for the bigger screen and all of the game controllers that are on here. But I will wait until the YouTube channel Retro Game Corps does their review on it, because they are the fella there is really thorough and goes through everything when it comes to these handhelds, and you get a better idea as to whether or not you should get one of these if you're interested in going and revisiting some of the classic hardware of yesteryear, or going for some of the new homebrew that people are making, because games for older systems haven't just stopped. There's people out there actively making ports and things like that of newer games onto the older systems, so you can actually go onto the Mega Drive and play an old or a new old game, or an old new game. Something that someone has recently developed for that system. It's great, absolutely great. Such a rich, lively community that I do encourage people to get into. Ted, you've been thinking about getting some of these, haven't you?
Yeah, I tried to. I was actually quite surprised that you... I got the Evercade, I was actually quite surprised that when you were going through that, I was expecting it to cost more than that for some reason. It seems like a very reasonable price, particularly the Pro model, as it seems to be better in every respect. Did you say what sort of screen they've got? Is it an OLED?
I think it's an LCD.
LCD.
I did notice the screen when I was scrolling down there, but I've lost it now.
Okay.
Well, it's worth pointing out that they are kind of cheap because they don't have to feature the latest and greatest processors inside of them. You know, the Dimensity 900 and the Dimensity 1100 are not the most powerful of processors. It's just a level that can run emulation successfully.
Yeah, I'd be up for that. I think the one that you're thinking of was the one that got cancelled. I ordered it on Amazon, and it was like the delivery date was about 3 months in advance, and I got an email saying this has now been cancelled. What was that? Right. I can't remember what it's called now. That was a little handheld thingy which I was going to get. Pocket something. I can't remember now. Anyway, this looks quite nice because it's in landscape as well, which would be better than a square one. Better than a stupid square watch thingy.
Well, you see, the screen aspect ratio actually comes into it as well, because effectively emulating classic arcade machines, the screen aspect ratio was very important there, because they used to be portrait.
Right.
So something like Spy Hunter, you have to crop it in, and it's really small on this type of screen unless it has the ability to be able to turn on its side. As the new Evercade EXP, that was one of the features that they included.
Yes.
Was that you can turn it into the portrait's aspect ratio and be able to effectively emulate arcade. So these don't always do that, but whenever they do, it's unusual. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
So we'll hold fire on this, and we'll let you know whether or not it's worth it. And if it is worth it, I'm going to be getting one.
Wow, very good for you. You're getting a lot this week, aren't you?
Well, it'll be a while before this is out, and it'll probably be summer before I can expect to have my hands on this, and then I can sit in the garden and play Super Mario and Grand Theft Auto. Great.
Splendid. Well, you're supposed to be cutting the grass.
True. I still have to cut the grass before the end of the summer last year. It's a bit overgrown. Right, moving into the Flap Your Trap About an app, where we have Dell. Dell has released a demo of the enhanced Copilot system that Microsoft are pushing out, and I didn't bother reading this because I have no interest in Copilot, to be honest, even though I did install it on my Chromebook this morning and it failed miserably. The folks seem to be quite positive about Copilot.
I think it's better than Bard is at the moment, but we'll come to that in a minute if we've got time. But this article is about Dell having got in bed with Microsoft and developing features which it looks like probably will roll out more widely than just Dell devices, where the AI can control the device by drilling down into your settings, your Windows settings. So it can, for example, turn on or off Wi-Fi in a certain place if it knows that you've gone there, or you can say to it, my computer, my laptop is slowing down and I can't understand why. Can you make it faster? And so off it will go with its AI and look at all the settings and drill down and find ways of making it faster. It's just more AI and more Copilot stuff. It's just, the news here is that Dell seems to be in bed with Microsoft developing it for their hardware first, but I'm sure it will come to others.
Great. Great.
And they're talking about putting a button in as well, aren't they? A Copilot button on Microsoft hardware, encouraging OEMs to put that on as well.
Yeah, you'll need to buy yourself a new keyboard.
Yeah.
That gets rid of the Windows button and puts in the Bard, but no, the Copilot button.
Talking of Copilot, there was a standalone app that Microsoft launched as well. I installed this on my phone and then forgot all about it. But because you were doing it as well today, I put it back on and gave it another try. You didn't think it was very good, did you?
No, I was doing my show notes this morning on the Chromebook. I figured I'd have a go with it there because it takes Android apps, and it didn't work very well with the Chromebook. I wasn't able to actually type in or record anything or work out how to interact with it. I was only able to use the buttons that it provides. So I hit the button that said some toddler jokes. So I did that, and it told me a few jokes, one of which was slightly witty. And then it came out of it, and I think I did it again. Yeah, I opened it again to see whether or not maybe the interactive part would reload, that I'd be able to use a microphone or keyboard or something with it. And it started again and it said, would you like some toddler jokes? And I thought, all right, okay, let's have some more toddler jokes. And it did the same 4 jokes again. And I thought, oh, right, okay. So
those buttons are on my phone. I didn't do it on my Chromebook, but on my phone, they're down the bottom there. There's a keyboard button and a microphone button and something else, and you can just choose what you want in terms of input. I tested the app against the same query in Microsoft Edge on my Windows desktop, and I noted that the results in the app on the phone were much more comprehensive, more information, more links, pricing of the items which I asked about. It just seemed like an all-round better experience, which is quite surprising because you'd think that on Edge on Windows they would have got that better, but once again someone else is developing a mobile app ahead of a desktop equivalent, it seems.
Yeah. But yes, I've opened it up on the phone now, and we have the bar to be able to interact with it properly,
right.
But it's not asking me if I want to see the toddler jokes, because I was going to read one of them out because it was quite witty.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Anyway.
yeah, we'll see this going forward because, well, yeah, we'll talk about it again because Google has some barred news as well. We'll get that out of the way first. Windows 11 is going to let you reinstall the operating system through the Windows Update routine without wiping your files if you need to. Why would you do this?
Because of something going wrong with your Windows computer. So if you get to a point with your Windows computer where you think, this is no good, the only solution I can come to now is to wipe my computer and start again. Well, it saves you having to do, and it's a bit like, compartmentalizing the Windows 11 part of the computer, and much like what Google were doing with Project What's Name, and taking your data and keeping it separately away from the OS, so you can go back and through the Play Store, the Microsoft Store in this case, reinstall Windows 11 and leave everything else intact and not have to reinstall and upload all the other stuff that you're working with. So, yeah, I guess it would help if you were in a bit of shtuck. You quite often have, you talk about restarting again with your Windows computers, don't you? And wiping it clean and starting again. Well, this will just make that process easier.
It doesn't get around the problem that I had before, where the last time I did it with Windows 11, I wasn't actually able to do it. I had to reinstall Windows 10 because Windows 11 wasn't able to find any drivers for networking.
Perhaps
so
this will fix that.
Get online. Well, I don't see how. Because it'll fix it in that it'll leave the driver on the hard disk because it's not wiping the hard disk. But if something was to happen to your hard disk, you still have that problem where you try to install Windows 11 and in order for it to get online to validate itself, because it does that first and foremost and go and get drivers for your machine, it's not able to get online because it doesn't communicate well with the network card or the Wi-Fi that you might have inside the system, depending on what your system specification is.
Okay.
So it's still a problem, and it's held me back from actually going and reinstalling things again. And at the moment, I'm stuck on a build from Windows 10, drivers installed through that, and then updated to Windows 11, as opposed to the new copy of Windows 11 that I do own, being installed freshly.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't do that.
Okay. Well,
maybe I can. Maybe the latest version of Windows 11 has compatible drivers with my network card, but I don't particularly want to go and reinstall it to find out whether that has happened, because then I need to go and get a copy of Windows 10 if it doesn't, to update it that way,
right,
or reinstall it that way.
Yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting to try it for me though, or you on a different machine. If when this is rolled out, and if it makes it a going concern. This is nowhere near rolling out yet, incidentally. This is all, for developers to muck about with first. Yeah.
Well, we'll move into something some developers mucking about with the Google Gallows and the Chrome Corner section.
Okay then. What's this first one? Chrome now defaults desktop mode to. Oh yeah. So on your tablet, as long as it's a premium tablet, inverted commas, desktop mode is now defaulting to the one that used to get me with this one was Gmail. Like I wanted on my tablet to have the Gmail layout and not the apps layout, which is it used to be very, very much mobile friendly and not desktop friendly, and this has changed that because the Chrome is now rolling out this thing whereby you don't have to muck about with that stupid URL to get to where you want to be with Gmail. You can just do it by default and it works, and I've tried that. So that's great news for me. I can't think of any other examples, I'm afraid, apart from Gmail, but that's the one that impacted me, and it has done for ages, and it'll save me mucking about.
Yeah, no, I've been pushing for this for quite a while. I don't see any reason why you would have the mobile version of a website on, especially a landscape tablet.
Exactly.
The desktop website is the better way to go.
I agree. And also Google's clock weather forecasts have got a redesign, and they include alarms. So when you set an alarm, we spoke about this before. It was coming soon. It was in America for ages, and we never got it. The news here is it's arrived in the UK, or at least it's arrived for me in the UK. And it means that when you set an alarm, when the alarm goes off, if you want it to, it will also give you a report on the weather and tell you what the weather is in the location you're in, which would be quite handy for people that are travelling, I suppose, particularly. And so that's working really well. And the last story is Google are preparing a paid version of Bard. And I suppose everyone's just trying to make money, aren't they? But they're obviously, it'll be interesting to see what features that are not available to people not using the Bard, what's it called? Bard Enhanced, Advanced.
Yeah.
Advanced, yeah. It'd be interesting to see what they snip out of the free version and how they're going to kind of coax people into paying up, and how much it's going to be, of course, in order to get the Bard thingy. I'm quite surprised, because if Microsoft continue to make Copilot and all their AI tools available for free, including that really good image creator thingy that we were talking about on the last show, which I've constantly used now, how on earth Google are going to talk people into paying for similar tools, I don't know. Do you?
Well, I have an idea, and it's my conspiracy theory idea. The idea that take the NHS. Over Christmas and the doctor's strike and all that, the NHS was forced to cancel a bunch of appointments and then rebook them and invite people to those appointments. Okay?
Right.
So you get hundreds, maybe even thousands of people who are needing letters that say your appointment has been cancelled, but you've been rebooked this one. There is probably a small army of administrators who are having to deal with that, who are having to go through and check details, making sure that everyone's got the right appointment and there's no miscommunication here, there, and everywhere. Mistakes can be crucial. So, there's probably a huge amount of government resources that are going into this administrative team that are having to do those letters for all of those people that are having their appointments reshuffled. Microsoft showed off at their last event that they were working with the whole Copilot and Office to have an AI add-in that would be able to do these sorts of things pretty much automatically, and you could tell the AI what letters you need to have issued. And I think for a small business, that's potentially quite exciting, because that means they don't need that whole layer of administrative army that's there. So essentially, a higher up in the NHS, instead of having all of those administrators, would have been able to say some sort of combination of words of rebook all of these appointments as 3 weeks later with these appointments here. And then all of the letters would be generated through AI, issued, posted, and it's done in a few minutes, as opposed to the hours or days or whatever overtime is required to pay for the army of administrators to get this right. So Microsoft would be saving the NHS a vast amount of money by doing that, a vast amount of pensions and all those sorts of things, so they can get rid of all of their administrators, because AI will do all of these things for you.
Then they won't have jobs.
They won't have jobs. However, with Google preparing paid versions of Bard, where they'll be able to approach the NHS and say, you won't have to have this army of administrators because Bard will be able to do this. And Microsoft will be able to do the same thing with Copilot, saying, you'll be able to do this. They can actually take over a workforce, a whole workforce, and push these letters out and say, well, what you need is you need this level of AI to be able to handle that many tasks. If you're issuing just for the sake of quantifying the amount of work that an administrator does, 500 letters a week, okay? Our AI can do that for you, and it'll cost you £1,000 a month. So the NHS can go, right, okay, well, £1,000 a month means all of our letters are dealt with. We don't need to have administrators there who require a salary, who require a pension. We can get rid of them.
They wouldn't have jobs.
They would. We can stop them being recruited. We can get rid of them. We can fire them. And then Google and Microsoft can then be the workforce that does all of that administration.
Yeah, I see what you mean, really.
Which means they can sort of push up their rates and things like that, because the NHS is always going to be saving money. And then you apply that to from small businesses right up to the largest of businesses, and I've used a pretty large business there to try to illustrate it as limited as I am in my my vocabulary and my dialect. But that's the kind of thing that I think that we're going to see in the future. Because as soon as I saw Microsoft advertising that being included in Microsoft Office, I started realizing that we don't need our admin team, or they're on borrowed time now. And as this starts to become the norm, then we stop needing that lowest rank of administrators.
What are they going to do? Make the people TikTok videos?
Well, yeah, they're going to have to either become experts in how to use the AI so that they become crucial to this, because they'll probably have to keep one administrator on that is the smartest cookie in the bunch that knows how to use the AI
reskilling
to get the most efficient. Well, It is reskilling, but it's going from maybe, say, on the civil service scale, there's thousands of AI of administrators. You get rid of all of them and keep a handful of them to be able to run this.
Are you getting the idea yet that I'm a bit of a socialist?
Well, no, I think it's very worrying, and we need to have, human error is obviously one thing, but we need to have that courteous side of it where you actually have someone who is responsible for what they're doing. Yeah. If AI makes a big bollocks of it and all the letters go out to the wrong people, and Mrs. Jones gets asked in for a vasectomy at the end of the week, she'll be going, what? But it's actually her next door neighbour, Mr. Barnes, who was supposed to be having that operation.
Mr. Cox.
Yeah, Mr. Lack of Cox. Then the balls up can be blamed on AI, and that's not going to wash. That's going to be even worse than, phoning a call centre and being put through and they're not able to handle your task. Yeah. It's a big problem that I think is brewing, and before they start charging for people to use this, and companies that are already taking advantage of it, already seeing the benefits of AI to their business, they need to make sure that it is entirely ironed out and worthwhile.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I was debating cutting that rant out because we're approaching almost 2 hours.
But you thought better of it.
Yeah, so maybe the pressure, the time pressure made me articulate it a bit better, and didn't take me half an hour. It took me only 15 minutes. Right. Are we done? Can we move on?
Yeah, go for it. Okay. A rare appearance for Harkback.
Yeah. Well, Steve Litchfield shamed me before Christmas for not doing Harkback because it's the best part of Tech Addicts. No, Ted Salmon is the best part of Tech Addicts, I say to that, Steve. Right. I came up with one because I saw one over Christmas, and that was the long telephone cable.
Uh-huh.
And the best way to illustrate this is I instantly think of Roseanne Barr in the sitcom Roseanne, where she's on the phone and she has this huge cable that reaches all the way across her kitchen.
On the back of that Roseanne thing, which I remember as well, one time in my past, I actually got one of those. I bought this humongous long cable just so I could kind of do a Roseanne.
Well, it becomes it's a comedy thing, where people come in and they get garroted by it as they're walking across the kitchen, and it defines how the person is, and people moving in and around, and it gets tangled up. And it's iconic as well.
Yeah.
You know, it really was an important thing. We didn't have one when I was growing up. The family phone was in the kitchen. It was one of those rotary ones that was stuck up on the wall. And if you wanted a little bit of privacy, then you had to stretch it round into the wee cloakroom that was beside it and close the door. And hope that no one heard you.
Yeah.
We didn't have the luxury of being able to walk around too far from the phone with this.
Mm.
I suppose the cordless came in soon after this. But it was the next logical step. But these still lasted for a long time. And they would get tangled, I suppose, and be a bit of a nightmare to have to untangle. Well, that was my heart back. There we go.
No, I'm sure that will please Steve. But you're right. It was great fun. And when I did this for no reason apart from I fancied doing it back in the day, it was great fun. All the things that you just said. I didn't need one at all, but just being able to walk around the room, it was just really funny. And I just used it for the sake of it. And of course, with a landline phone, you could, well, the ones that I had, you could just buy an extension cable because in the end they just kind of plugged into whatever handset you wanted. So you just buy this like 20-foot cable.
Yeah, that's right. You could replace them as well.
Yeah.
It's often the simplest of ideas that, make the most sense, and this really made sense.
Yep. Good one.
Yep. Cool. All right. Bargain basement. Still under 2 hours. We can do this in 5 minutes, can't we?
Quick.
Okay. We're going to start off with mine, which was Amazon batteries, because Christmas worked over batteries. Thankfully, everything I was able to put batteries in. Amazon Basics 48 batteries, AA and AAA. AAA, AA. 24 of each. They're doing them for £11 and 61p, but you can do a subscribe and save, which means you can get them delivered to you every 3 or 6 months, depending on how often you use them, and it'll knock 15% off or 5%, depending on how many subscriptions you have at the time. I would have done the maths, but I'm not going to. I'm far too lazy. But I think that's absolutely cracking value, and these batteries are good batteries.
Presumably, when they subscribe and save, the next one is due. You're not going to get that same price every time, are you? It's going to go.
You agree to it, yeah, but they'll notify you whenever something goes up in price.
Okay.
I've cancelled a few things. I used to get shampoo from Amazon on subscription, but it went up a bit too high, and it's better off for me to go and get it out of Poundland.
Yeah. No, it's a good price. £11 for all that. Really good. Yeah.
Yeah, 48 batteries. Brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. Right, the standing desk that I noticed via RPG, the RPG website. Anyway, I nicked this one. It's £76 and it was £90, so 16% off. And I didn't realise that, according to their article, apparently electric standing desks are becoming cheaper and cheaper. Obviously, by this they are. Even if it was proper price at £90, I think that's still a bit of a bargain. It's electrified and goes up. It's got a little control panel on the front lip there, and you can send it up and send it down. What a price, I think, for a nice bit of kit.
Just the last image there, where there's a cat sleeping on it. Because it's so smooth and quiet.
Yeah.
A cat can sleep as you lift it up. Right, okay.
Yes. 116 centimetres high it goes, down to 71, for those that can understand what that means, that don't need feet and inches.
Yeah. That's decent enough. I am intrigued by the type of person that uses these. I can't say I would ever be interested in one because I'm far too lazy to stand there. But yeah, cool.
I did try it once.
You're into that sort of thing.
I did try it once. We did an experiment on whatever works, and I soon got fed up with it. It was, I didn't buy an electric desk. I just I piled everything up so that it emulated it, and I tried really hard, but it was just like, forget this. I want to sit down.
Okay, so you took the simplistic side of it and removed that. So every time you wanted to raise your desk up, you had to go and get several encyclopedia.
Well, yeah, but I left them there during the experiment. I just left. I didn't keep changing it. I just left it up, and I thought, right, I'm going to try and stand. I took the chair away, and I stood there for I don't know, probably a day or two, a couple of days, I think. And in the end, I just like, this is, I'm knackering my feet, my back hurts.
But isn't it something you're supposed to progress with? You'll maybe do it for an hour the first day, and then an hour and a half the next day, 2 hours, and gradually build yourself up to doing it. And you don't. The whole idea about it going up and down is that you rest for a certain period, and then you stand for a certain period.
Well, no wonder I didn't last with it then.
All right, moving on. The Honor X6A mobile phone is currently on sale on Amazon. It's been dropped in price from £130 down to £93.97. This is a 6.5-inch 90 hertz full view display, 4 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of storage, 5,200 milliamp hour battery, and a 50 megapixel triple camera, and it runs Android 13. It's made by Honor, so it should be fairly decent. It looks quite a nice little low-cost device that might work for someone somewhere.
It does indeed. I think my dad would like that. Because it's quite basic, but it's got a nice big battery, and he won't care that it's an LCD. So, and it'll work outside better, as we said earlier. So, yeah.
And Magic OS is one of the better overlays, I have to say. I don't mind it as much.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go.
Very good. Okay, next up is the very thing that's in front of me, the Elgato Stream Deck XL, which has been reduced. The price now is $189.99, and it was $229.99, so it's 17% off. And I can personally recommend this indeed. It doesn't often get down to this price. It's more often full price. So snap it up. 32 lovely keys. And I really still use I know you had a go and you didn't really use it much, but I use mine all the time. I think it's really good.
I use it as a game launcher now.
Yeah.
Quake 2 on one, Ostriv on another, Farthest Frontier on another. And I just hit the button and I play the game when I want to play the game.
Well, that's fair enough. Each use case is valid.
Yeah. Okay, next up is one that you usually feature, but maybe you hadn't realised that it's on sale at the moment, or you were a bit tired of it, perhaps. Right. But I've nabbed it for this time around. This is the Sony WH-1000 XM5s. These are noise-cancelling wireless headphones, over-the-ear style, with 30 hours of battery life inside of them. They've been reduced in price from £316, down by 25% to £239. And Ted, I've noticed that you've put in there that you're getting offered 6 monthly payments of £47.80. Oh, 5, sorry. Yeah. And I'm not.
Well, that's not surprising, is it? Because
I've got one going at the moment.
You've been a naughty boy. They say the RRP is 316, but when these first came out, these were 379, weren't they?
I'm having a look.
That's
at the
cheapest.
Keeper, no.
That is the cheapest price I've seen them, but the Keeper doesn't go back far enough, I don't think, because it must do, mustn't it? I'm sure these were for 379 on release. Anyway, it's a real good bargain. You're right. 239 is the cheapest I think I've seen them.
You can put it back a year, and 315 is, or 340.80 is the highest they've been at. 349. Ooh, I stand corrected. 349.
I don't believe them. I think they were 379. I'm very convinced.
No, they were. They were 379 604 days ago. 380 607 days ago.
I rest my case.
There you go. So that's a pretty big saving for 2 years ago, right?
Yeah. Anyway, that's a good bargain. And 5 payments. That's really cool. If I didn't have my XM4s, which are still absolutely perfect and fine and no problem at all, I would be all over that one. If anyone still wants a Dell Windows laptop. There's an Inspiron 14 going, the 5435, which is reduced from 679 to 549. This is a Ryzen 7 unit, 16 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte SSD, which is really nice. A backlit keyboard, 16:9 display, full HD. Really nice little laptop, I think, if you're in the market for a laptop. And I'm guessing that it must be a 14-inch screen. The Dell Inspiron 14. You'd think it would be a 14-inch screen, wouldn't you? Doesn't it actually say that?
That's got to be, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is 14 inches. And the Ryzen 7 chipset. So, yeah, nice little laptop that looks like. And Dell, I like Dell stuff.
Yeah, and it's got the AMD Radeon graphics support as well, so that's... Mm-hmm. That means it'll be able to, do some video stuff.
Yeah, cool. Good.
Grand. Moving on to my last one, actually, is I've bought a couple of these because I want to rework some of the cabling around my desk and stuff. And having right angle connectors is always nice. And these are the Onyx USB-C charge cables. They're 100 watts. It's a 2-pack of two 2-meter cables, which are PDQC, 4 fast charging USB Type-C braided cables. Very important, the braided thing. And they've got a good connector as well around the right angle. But I'm just sick of having cables coming out of something and then sitting out by a couple of inches and then turning right and going away down the back of the desk. So I've opted for a few of these, and it means I'll be able to plug in my my Chromebook here beside me and charge it with this nice little snug device, and then I just push it away, and it'll sit there at the corner of the desk, held up because it's a right angle. You can actually hook it onto things, and then pull it out whenever you need to use it and pop it in.
Indeed,
great.
Make sure you plug the other end into a 100-watt compatible charger.
Yes, that's what I have under the desk. But they were £13. Now they're down to $9.99. But there's another 35% voucher that can be applied that takes that down. What, £3.50? So that's what, £7? No,
$6.50.
Yeah, $6.50.
Yeah,
maybe that's what I paid for it. I can't remember.
Very good. Yeah.
They're decent
nice
little cables.
I've got an Inu. In fact, I've got two Inu bedside Qi chargers, and they've worked absolutely flawlessly for a long, long time. I think Inu is quite a decent make.
Oh, they do power banks as well. Are they available? No, not available to me.
Right, the last one is the Samsung Galaxy Watch 6 Classic, the Bluetooth 43mm version, although the cellular version is also on special offer. This one has been reduced from $369 to $294. And I keep looking at this and I keep not buying it and thinking to myself, I've got a 5. The 5 is just as good as a 6, except for one thing, which is that rotating bezel. And I keep I keep asking myself, would I really... Is it worth all that? I need to do a trade-in, really. But anyway, for anyone that hasn't got one, it's 20% off, $294. And if you want the LTE 4G version, then it's $354 from $429. So 17% off. I keep getting tempted, but I keep saying no.
Yeah, it's a very nice looking watch. That I do fancy it myself. Mm-hmm. But you need to be, well, you have a Samsung phone, but you need to be in the Samsung wheelhouse to get the most out of it. You
do, absolutely. And I've got a Flip 5 coming this week, incidentally, which someone in the group is sending over. A Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 5, which has got a much bigger screen than my Flip 4. So I'm looking forward to that. And the Flip 4 might be on sale soon.
Yeah. Wow. I have to tell you this right now. I'm going to have to go because my McDonald's has just arrived. And I don't know if you can hear my stomach growling. As soon as I smelt it, it just went...
Say goodbye. Quick.
Yes, well, we're back for the year. We had a great break, so we'll be talking at you over the next in 2 weeks' time for another exciting podcast that'll probably... Oh, we're not doing this. We're not managing it. We've got to get it down below 2 hours. We're at 2 hours and 10 minutes. And it's not helping that I'm going on about it. Right. Well, we'll catch us all in 2 weeks' time for another fun-filled chatathon. All right, take care now, folks. Oh, yes, if you want to get in touch with us, you can by emailing us at gareth@techaddicts.uk. You can also find me at garethmiles.com. And I have my Twitter as well, at garethmiles, GarethMyles. I have a Mastodon page too, and there's links to that in the show notes if you want to find me there. Ted, where can they find you?
TedSalmon.com, as always. And if you want to buy me a coffee, you can do that. It's at paypal.me/TedSalmon. And yes, catch you in 2 weeks.
All right. Well, other than that, take care now.
Bye.